Joy, we don't know Joy. Hi, Joy.
She's muted.
Yeah, she was muted the last time so's Jamie. Okay.
Cool. So we're now live on Facebook. And let me make this full screen, presentation mode. And
There we go.
okay, so I'm also testing it on my own computer so I can make sure I'm not covering something up. If you guys can't see something, it could be that you need to move the little bar of people around on the screen. You can kind of grab it and like drag it around. So in case it's covering up part of the presentation.
Oh, the closed caption looks good.
Yeah, I added that on, or I think I selected the option. Okay, we just got a couple minutes. How's everyone doing?
Very nice, Philip. How you
Bill?
doing?
Hey, Bill.
Jack, Jamie, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty well.
A little warmer than the last time I saw you, Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
The weather
Yeah,
today
my
was
hands aren't
amazing.
numb.
Yeah.
Today, I can't believe it was 80 today.
Absolutely.
It was beautiful.
Oh, yes.
I took my son to the park and we had a nice walk. I got some nice pictures in front of some oak trees.
Philip, let me, so we got a few minutes. The captions of what you're saying is being cut off by my taskbar along the bottom. Can I collapse that taskbar?
Bill, if you
Maybe.
go to the top right, you can go full screen and it should be okay.
All right, top right.
And one of the options is full screen.
Just says standard side-by-side speaker, side-by-side gallery, snap video and shared screen, exit full screen. So I must be in full screen.
Okay.
That's all right. I can manage.
One thing which I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can mute everyone, but and then you can unmute yourself if you need to talk. Just because last time there was a lot of some people had complained about some interference in the background. Not that we don't want you to talk and participate.
I've been watching Zoom videos about 3 hours today, trying to learn this program.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, I don't even know if I can figure out how to mute everyone like everyone at a time. I thought there was an option just to select everyone.
Yeah, one of the videos that I
Go down. So go down, look at the participant list. And
Okay.
look on the bottom of the participant list. You as host should have a mute all.
Let's see. I thought that I would, but
Yeah, you should.
maybe it's because I'm in presentation mode.
Yeah, I had to drag my participation list to another screen.
At work, we've been using Teams at work. I could take it in Teams. I can't tell you. I can't tell you in Zoom.
Let's talk about the most important thing. Why am I so red?
Yeah, my camera does that to me too.
You must be in one of those red states, John.
There you go. Okay, I'll live with that.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, here we go. I figured it out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute all, and then if you need to talk, just mute and unmute yourself. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. And then we'll get started. Okay. Okay, let me just go back to presentation mode. Okay. So, welcome to the February 2021 meeting. So I have a few, if I can figure out how to, whoa, what am I doing? Okay. Sorry. Okay. So welcome to the February 2021 Pontchartrain Astronomy Society's general meeting. Today we're going to actually, we're going to have a little bit of interaction, some of the things we had last time. I'm actually going to try to stream the Mars rover landing for those who haven't seen it. And then we have kind of a stargazing session at the end. And this is one of the things that that Mike had suggested. He had seen it before and thought it would be nice to share here. So that's pretty much the meeting today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So this is the section we'll kind of allow officers to give updates. So if whoever wants to give updates, I don't know, John, if you're on, if you wanted to give an update on membership. I know that you know we're trying to see how many people are going to pay their dues and stay in the club this year after last year with the pandemic. Maybe he's not on. Actually, I don't see him on the list. Okay, well, I will try to get an update from him and send it out, information out to the club, whoever is interested. Anyone, you guys want to give an update on the SPMS site? I don't know if Ron or Walter's on.
I don't see him.
No, I don't see him either. Okay. I know that from when I talked to Walter, he told me that they did go up and during the really cold weather, they made sure that the heat was on so the pipes didn't freeze. They also went up and they worked on the door of the bunkhouse, and they reinforced it a bit. And kind of the idea was it was getting, I guess it needed a little bit of work, and they wanted to make it more secure, so the lock was more effective. So that work had been completed, and Walter had told me that everything looked like it was okay and survived the cold well. So that's good news. It's not too often you get as cold a weather as we had seen over the past couple weeks. Okay, and the next really thing here I want to talk about is kind of some things that we need for the team, for our club. Really, we're looking for some things to help us out with the PAS times. So we're looking for photos and articles. So if you are aspiring, astronomy journalist, and I know Kent kind of has a few people that are regulars that write stuff. But if you would like to try your pen, you can talk to Kent about some ideas that you have. And also, the last two articles I put, my photos were in there as well as a few other people's. But I would like anyone who has a photo in the club to submit it to Kent so we can, put your photo on the cover or post it within there an article that it might be related to. So please send your photos to Kent. And we're also looking for future presenters. So like today, we don't actually have a presenter today. We're gonna show a few videos and we're gonna have some discussion. So really these sessions are a lot better if we have a presenter. So think about if you guys have something prepared you've presented in the past, please get with Mike and give him a proposal. And because we'd really like to kind of get a couple people lined up here over the next couple months. So we have a steady stream of good presentations coming up. A few ideas were sent out in the slides last meeting. You don't have to stick with those, but it just gives you some ideas and some things that maybe you may want to put together a presentation for. Okay. Any
Hey, Phil?
questions? Yep.
Yeah, Phil, there's a question in the chat. Someone is listening to us, but asks how he can join the PAS. Maybe you can say how to do that on the stream.
Yes, so that's actually, we try to make that pretty easy. So you go to astronola.org. So it's like astro, like ASTRO, NOLA, which is NOLA.org. And there's actually, I think it's there's a button at the top in the menu that like is about join. And when you go to that screen, there's actually a link that you can click to basically pay the dues. And it'll ask you some questions about, there's also some discounts you can get if you want to subscribe to some of the magazines. And if you do want to do that, you can't actually use the link to pay with your credit card to join the club. You actually have to fill out the form and actually send the check to John. We're trying to fix that in the future. Jeff's working on potentially modifying it so we can actually do that through credit card
Phil,
as well. Yep.
this is Jeff. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Mic problems earlier. Yeah, I am working on that. And what I did this past week was a friend of mine's son is actually in the web server management business, if you will. He custom writes web pages and the like. So I sent him a statement of work of what we're looking for and asked him to take a look at it. And I gave him access to the web server to take a look at the language. And even he said it's written kind of, it's outdated. So he was going to spend a little more time looking at it and, you know, maybe put a cost associated with it to make those minor changes. You know, he didn't think it would be a whole lot, but he wanted to spend a little more time taking a look at it. So just to give you an update on where that's at. And I did get a couple of membership inquiries this past week too. One of them did join. The second one was about to, and those came in through our Facebook page.
Yeah, and what the dues really go towards, just so people know, is actually most of the dues go towards sustaining the dark site that we have on the North Shore, and a lot of those costs go towards cutting the grass and doing the maintenance at the site. And it's a really good value for the team and the cost associated with joining the club. And really the rest of the costs go towards really the money goes towards like usually the Christmas party at the end of the year and helping to offset some of those costs. So we are a nonprofit organization. Okay, so the next thing is a little bit of update about the next in-town star party. And actually, we did have some turnout to the one that happened in February, even though it was very, very cold. We actually had quite a nice breeze, a very cold breeze off the lake. And we were out there for about an hour and a half, so from about 6 to 7:30, and then we called it a night. We had about 6 people come. The next one, and
Before you move on with that, how did that go in COVID plan? How did that go with having a star party when you are socially distanced?
Yeah, so everyone who came wore masks. People were very kind of cordial around using people's telescopes. Most people look through their own. If you know, like some of the people who came had already been vaccinated. So those people, I let them use my scope. But it's really up to the owner of the scope if they want a particular person, you know, to and you know, tell people if you're uncomfortable, please speak up and say, hey, I haven't had my vaccine yet, and you know, you prefer that they don't look through it, and everyone is pretty polite. But yeah, it was I mean, we had 6 people, so not a lot of people. We were able to, you know, spread out a little bit. It had rained, so a couple of days before, and the water had not completely dried up yet, so there were a few muddy spots. But that typically is only the case if it rains a few days before the event.
So let me throw out a quick question, Phil.
Yep.
Just because I got this from some other folks.
Yep.
You know, there's many in our club that aren't necessarily city dwellers and are concerned about their safety. What's the general feeling about that part of the city?
Oh, like the safety of that area?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, actually, you know, Lake Vista does have private security that does drive around that neighborhood. Actually, when I was out there, I saw them pass by. It's a fairly, I guess, of all the places in New Orleans, usually describe Lakeview and Lake Vista as this is where it's safe. So
I got you. I mean, that's good to know,
yeah.
you know, when you got private security running around and I mean, if you've been watching the local news, you know that crime has just exploded this past year. So that's good to pass on. Thank you.
Yeah, and like, I mean, things happen. There have been people who've you know have gone around the neighborhood and you know try to open car doors. Yeah, I mean, there really typically is not very much at all violent crime in this particular part of the city. Yeah, you don't really have to worry too much about your safety.
Good deal. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, so we'll try to have this on March 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. or until people get tired and want to go home. The spot we're probably going to try to pick a little bit different spot than we did last time. We were under a light, but that was because it was a bit muddy other places. So we'll try to pick a little bit better spot. Hopefully it'll be dry, like drier than it was last time when we go out there. And if it turns out we don't like this area, we can always try to find a different spot. Okay. Yeah, so actually I put this slide in here as future topics, but you guys already have seen some of this, but this was just some ideas that were thrown out last time. If people want to kind of get a little brain jog of some things that they can be thinking about for a future presentation. Yeah, so this next section is going to be, again, the monthly virtual targets. So I picked some different ones this time. Discussion is very welcome. You can talk about maybe a time that you saw this particular object and some things that you noticed about it through your scope. These images are from a telescope either in the Canary Islands or in Chile through the site slew.com. Yeah, so all that data comes from them. I did do some post-processing on some of the images that I think it does a little bit better than the processing that they do at the site. So you can see a little bit more of the detail. And please, if you have, I did not get any targets over the past month requests from the club. So if you do have something you would like to have in a future meeting, please send it to me. Otherwise, I'm kind of just picking the popular targets that are available at that time of year. Hold on just a second here. Well, let me just make sure that I'm looking at the right presentation, actually. Maybe I need to shift over. Hold on just a second. I actually had two versions of the presentation, so I apologize. Okay. And am I sharing the right one? Hold on just a second. I apologize. Okay. So this should be the updated slide pack. We did see this object last time, but I tried to do a little bit more processing and added some color to it, so you can kind of see the sombrero a little bit better. I think it's a pretty amazing object. Actually, I've never seen this object visually, but I've heard it's very nice to look at. But it's definitely very cool as a photo. Has anyone seen the Sombrero Galaxy through a telescope?
Steve Harrison here. We've looked at it several times. It's always a beautiful thing to see. And yeah, you can see that rift, at least through the 17.5. And I believe in smaller telescopes as well, probably down to 10-inch.
Yeah. Mine too, Steve, the 17.5 really did well.
No, awesome. Thanks for that.
I've seen it through an 8-inch telescope. It's a new years and years ago. You guys, probably some of the older guys might remember that. And yeah, you could see the rift on a good night, actually, on a good dark night. It's a very nice object. It's one of the nicest out there.
Yeah, I agree. I have an 8-inch Newt f3.9. You can see it. Yep, nice target.
So yeah, that should be on everybody's go-to, when it's up in the sky.
And Lynn Philpott added in the chat that he said he's seen it many times, and an 80mm will show the dust lanes on a good night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Believe it or not, from very light infected, so to speak, Kenner, I've seen the object, and I can't say I saw the rift. I saw the angle of the shape of it with a 60mm. Now, that's all I saw. I saw a blob that was kind of oriented the right way. But believe it or not, in light polluted Kenner, I've actually seen it with a 60mm refractor.
No, thanks, Sean. This next object is kind of interesting, I thought, because they call it the Gabriela Mistra Nebula. It's actually named after a Chilean poet that they say it looks like the face of the poet. So you can kind of see in here, you kind of have the shape of a face within the nebula, and it's quite beautiful. It's quite surprising that the scope with a single shot, really a single shot of each of the color bands, can capture the nebula and that detail.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's what I was going to ask. What were the technical details on that? But single shot, that's really nice.
Yeah, well, so it's a single. In fact, the shots actually are only, I believe it's 50 seconds per image, and they shoot a luminance, a red, green, and blue shot, and they merge them together. I actually merged these together myself again in PixInsight, and it does a little bit better job of relaxing the gradients a bit better than the shot that they presented in the SLU site.
What size scope and F ratio?
This one is, I'd have to look up the one. This is from the Chilean scope. I believe it's their the #1 scope. I can look up what it is. It might be like a plane wave 17-inch. And it has, I think they typically have like a FLI or a SBIG camera. I think there they have the plane wave, and I think they have a little wider scope. I think it's like a 150. I don't know what brand. And this is a very beautiful picture as well. So this is the Carina Nebula. And this I believe is with the plane wave because it's quite zoomed in. This nebula, as you people who've seen pictures of it before, is quite large, and it has this little kind of nice nodule in the image, and you can kind of see in here as well. And if you look at some of the shots with like more longer exposures, these really dust lanes here really start to get a lot of detail in them. Of course, here we don't quite see this. This is a very kind of quick shot, but a very beautiful nebula. And this is, I think you can only see this one from the southern hemisphere. And this one I thought was just interesting at how orange the star is. So this is Heinz Crimson Star. And compared to the background, it's a very, very bright orange star, the background stars.
So that's one that I like to try to find when it's up in the sky. And sometimes it takes me a little time, but ultimately I can see it.
No, awesome. Thanks, Steve. So the next one is Caldwell 5. I think it also has an IC designation. This one actually is one of the, I guess it's one of the more difficult galaxies to see because it's actually kind of hidden behind a lot of the dust that's in our galaxy. And I showed you two pictures because this is actually, I wanted to show the effect of stacking. So this is a single image on the left. And so this particular run that they did for the telescope, they shot two sets of, I think six and 7 luminance shots only. They didn't shoot any color. But after you kind of stack the images, oops, I don't know why it jumped to the other one. Once you kind of stack the images, you start to see a little bit better the structure. But even in a longer exposure, if you take a look at a lot of the pictures of this particular one online, it's very difficult to get a really great image of this particular galaxy just because it's so obscured by the dust in our own galaxy. So most people know very well this object. So this is M13. And I know through Steve's telescope, this looks quite amazing through 17.5 inch. Cool, and so I'll move on. Next one is the, oops, I forgot to change the name at the top of this one, but this, oops, I'm on the same slide. I don't know why I jumped back. Okay, this is M5, and this is the globular cluster in
Can
Serpens.
you go back to that M13 slide?
Yeah.
So I've never looked, but Jack and Company, what's this feature up here? Yeah,
This one?
yeah, I've never really noticed that before. Might be worth trying to find.
It could be a distant galaxy.
Yeah, try to remind me of that next time we're out there.
Okay.
That is a satellite galaxy. I know Rock Mountain likes looking at that one all the time because it's really close to, I don't know if it's 6207. It's, I forget the number.
So next one here
That looks
is,
like the Jack. Yeah, 6207. Bill says, Lynn says the same thing.
cool. No, so next one is M5. So this is another really nice globular to see in the sky. This M5, if you see it, it's a little bit more dispersed than M13. And the core isn't quite as bright, but it tends to have a little not so compact as M13. The next one is kind of an interesting one. So NGC 2419, kind of the nickname of this one is the Intergalactic Wanderer. So for a time, people thought that this this globular was not part of our galaxy. It actually, its orbit is farther out than the Magellanic Clouds. But I think after further study, they determined that it is actually basically rotating around or orbiting around our galaxy. And its like orbit is something around 3 billion years. It's kind of an interesting object. So this next one is a feature in the Large Magellanic Cloud, and they call it the B Nebula. I kind of like this one because it has a very pronounced and nice open cluster, a couple of them within the nebula. Cool. So next one is our own Milky Way galaxy. So since we can't really get an image of it, I stole this off of Wikipedia, and I think it's kind of cool. So we're kind of here in this little thing they call the Orion Spur in our galaxy, and I guess they, from all the distances that they've measured of different objects, they can determine like the shape of, and that it has various arms within our galaxy. Cool. That was, sorry, that was my last of the objects. And the next thing I wanted to show, if people haven't seen, and maybe a lot of people have seen already, was the Mars rover descent. I did test the streaming. If you have probably a very slow connection, the video may be choppy, but you should be able to hear the sound. And it does happen a little bit, you know, slower, so you should still be able to kind of get the effect of the landing. So give me a second here to pull it up. And change the sharing. And go to full screen. Okay. So is everyone ready? It's only 3 minutes, so it's not too long.
Where the spacecraft will jettison the entry balance masses in preparation for parachute deploy and to roll over to give the radar a better look at the ground.
Indicate chute deploy.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Heat shield set.
Perseverance has now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
Nav filter converge. Velocity solution 3.3 meters per second. Altitude 7.4 kilometers.
Now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers above the surface of Mars. Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second at an altitude of 4.2 kilometers.
LVS valid.
We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation.
Priming. TBA is nominal.
We have priming of the landing engines.
Back shell set.
Current velocity is 83 meters per second at about 2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
TRN safety Bravo.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars. We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver. Sky crane maneuver has started, about 20 meters off the surface.
We're getting signals from MRO. Tango Delta.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the signs of past life.
Okay. So that was the landing. I don't know if other people had seen that before.
That's very watchable. I swear when the sky crane at the very end, you see it moving away. I don't know, that was like the best part. I mean, that's just got me the most. I mean, the whole thing is just to be able to do that in what they call the 7 minutes of terror.
Yeah.
That was just too cool.
I have a question. This is Bill. What all of this was done programmatically, or they were live when they were doing it? Because I know it takes a while for signals to go back and forth. So
No, so it was completely, what I understand is it was completely automated. And so they really didn't know or see the videos until they were uploaded after it
after it was
actually had
down.
landed.
Wow.
Yeah. The first pictures that they got were just a maintenance from the maintenance cameras that showed that just the service in black and white. And eventually they downloaded all the videos of the actual landing itself.
Takes about 22 minutes to get data back from Mars to Earth.
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
they kind of played it like it was live, but yeah, they were seeing it all after the fact. Everybody was seeing it after the fact, right?
Yeah, if you want to watch, you can also watch the control room during the actual landing. So it's I think that video is maybe 13 minutes or something, or at least a section where they're actually landing is around 13 minutes, and as they're approaching the different events, you can kind of get a bit of a feel for what's going on. But yeah, all they're doing is I think they initiate the actual landing at a particular time, and then they're just observing. And they actually had what they called a heartbeat, and I don't know if it's quicker than the radio, but they were able to, I guess, detect how it was doing during the landing through some type of communication method that just gave them a signal that it was okay or not.
So I'm sorry, there was a special on Nova this last time. They spent an hour covering all those things. And yeah, of course, we all understand it wasn't real time, but they did have indicators about the actions that were going on, after the light delay, speed of light delay. But yeah, the videos were done several hours afterwards.
But if y'all think about it, everything in astronomy that we do is delayed. I mean, we're looking at galaxies that are hundreds of thousands and millions of years ago. It's the old, they may not be there now, but some probably are. but when we see a supernova or something, we say it happened 1,000 years ago, or for the Crab Nebula and such, but it actually happened a whole lot longer than that. But it's kind of cool though. People think of when things happen and you see them, is that starts to time zero because you're seeing the effect of it, I imagine.
Well, you got to be amazed, as we grow older about the technology and the capabilities that these new technologies provide. Because yes, this is all automated, if you will. We're not part of the mix at that point. We're just hoping everything goes right. And with today's technology, it does.
Well, think
Yeah,
about
I saw some of the same videos out there. I think that you did, Steve. There's some pretty cool stuff there. They were showing how it was manufactured and all the testing that went into it. So if you haven't seen that stuff and you're interested, it's all out there. Some of it's on YouTube. Some of it you can get, live streaming, History Channel, Discovery Channel. Really
Nova
fascinating.
show was really good. The Nova show that they did on it was really good. They covered like 3 years worth of construction on it. And like you said, all the testing they did, and they showed what it could do. And that thing's going to be fascinating. They plan to bring stuff back from that thing in a few. So let's see how that works.
This is Bill Davis. I'd just like to make the point, if you view the moon, the time delay is much less.
this is true, but y'all think about you think about all
almost real time.
You think all the technology in this one here, but imagine the Viking landers. They went down, and that was in the 70s, and they didn't have the computing that we had today. They had to get it right, and they did.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing where we've come in a short 50 years, right?
With regards to the time delay thing, when you look at a galaxy, if that galaxy is at an angle to us, the closer side you're seeing at a younger time than you're seeing the further side. So you're not really seeing the galaxy as it was even at any one time. You're seeing that galaxy over time, depending on, the closer side to the further side of that galaxy.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some of them are thousands of light years wide, right? So yeah,
Right.
that's an interesting phenomenon. Good point.
So, I hate to get back to the odor part, but, some of us that remember, Neil Armstrong trying to, do the practice landings with that lunar, lander that he was using, on Earth. I mean, people that have drones and now just would laugh at how clumsy that thing was in 1969. And here we are. It's just automatic. We can land a booster rocket back on a launch pad. That's
Yeah, that is impressive. I still am amazed every time that they do that. What's kind of cool with this one is that their concept was to get down to the surface, and then the thing hovers and literally cranes out the rover to the ground, and then once it's on the ground, it detaches and flies away. I thought that was quite a very interesting concept.
There's also a drone as part of this kit that they're going to fly around Mars in a few months once they got it all up and running. So it should be kind of cool.
Yeah, the main purpose of this particular mission is the search for life, as well as to prepare for a future manned mission to Mars.
Well, it's to gather the samples that they will ultimately send back to Earth, which is really the incredible part. And Bill, that drone thing is kind of incredible because what is it, 1/100th the atmosphere or whatever, and fly a helicopter around, with that less dense atmosphere.
Well, that's what I was thinking too when I saw the parachutes. I'm like, it's much thinner there. The parachutes work.
Well, they don't work as well down here because they only saw it so much. That's why they need to have the retro rockets down near the bottom. They can't do it all by parachute.
Right.
That drone is weighs 4 pounds, and the propellers counter-rotating are 4 foot in length each.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I believe they said they weren't going to do any real science with that drone. They were just going to try to fly, right? So it'd be
Yeah.
interesting with the time delay and what they'll be able to do.
It's proof of technology is what they're going to do to make sure that it can lift off. That first test is just on lift off about 10 or 15 feet, settle back down, recharge. It's got its own little solar panels on top. And then after that, they're going to try some horizontal movement a few days later. But you got to still, every time it flies, they're going to have it recharge. And its flight time is only about 5 or 6 minutes.
I believe another
Yeah.
proof of concept on there, they're going to be able to take out of the thin CO2 atmosphere, they're going to try to take oxygen out of it. So when future man goes there, they have a technology to make their own oxygen. That's kind of neat.
Very cool. The next thing I wanted to actually do is just to have a small discussion period. You know, instead of just listening to one person talk, we can have like an open discussion. And I threw out a couple questions, but you know, we can go beyond this if someone has something they want to talk about. But you know, what sparked your first interest in astronomy, and what is your favorite object this time of year? I can start just to kind of break the ice. So actually, we were on a trip to Chile, and you know, we were looking at things to do, and my wife actually, so a friend of hers said, "Oh, you should do a astronomy tour." So so I did. So we looked up and we did this astronomy tour, and there, you know, the sky is of course very beautiful, and they take you out to this basically this dark site a little bit outside the city, and they have, I think they have like maybe 15 telescopes set up in this field on this platform, and you see all kinds of things. So that time of year we were able to see, I think, Saturn and Jupiter, as well as some galaxies and yeah, some cool stars. Yeah, it was kind of neat. And then they go in and they you know, of course it's cold at night, so then you get some hot cocoa, and then you talk about space, and he does a presentation. So I thought that was cool, and then I kind of said, well, maybe I should get a telescope. And then my wife bought me like a really cheap one for Christmas. It was like one of these $50 ones you buy at Walmart, and I tried to use it, and of course it wasn't very effective. So of course I went out and then I bought my my TeleVue telescope that I have now, and yeah, so I've been kind of into astronomy since. And this time of year, my favorite object really is Orion. I really like to, anytime that I'm basically out this time of year and Orion's in the sky, I'll pop the scope over at the Orion Nebula and take a gander.
I'll second Orion as my favorite in the winter. It's always been something really nice to look at and spend some time, and it's easy to find and very interesting to look at. And every time I look at it, I catch just a little bit something different that I didn't catch before. There's so much in there. And I just really enjoy looking at the Orion Nebula.
There are things in the winter, the Rosette Nebula and I don't know the NGC number, but Thor's helmet. Those have become kind of two of my favorites. Although Thor's helmet is a little harder to find, so I don't always see it. But I've seen it a number of times. And as far as getting into astronomy, there were two events, and I don't know which one was first, but at some time I got a toy Apollo rocket with a little spring-loaded capsule that popped off of it. And then also on a trip, we lived in Iowa at the time, and we went and visited some friends on a farm in Iowa and had some kind of get together. And someone found the Big Dipper and pointed the Big Dipper out to me, which before that, I guess I knew there were stars. I'm sure I must have known there were stars up there, but it never really occurred to me to find a dipper up there. So So those are the two things. Like I don't know if I had the rocket first or if I saw the Big Dipper first, but they both happened during my preschool years. And then once I got in school, I found a book in the library about the moon. And then I was in junior high, so it was a few years later when I finally acquired a telescope. But in junior high, I got a 60 millimeter telescope with an equatorial mount. So I got familiar with finding objects and familiar with how an equatorial mount works. And then a few years later, I was all set when I went to college and I got to use their scopes.
Philip, you could allow sharing. I can show a picture of Thor's helmet that I took earlier this week.
Yeah.
From the backyard.
Yeah, yes.
Timing's everything.
How do I,
Old screen.
who knows how to like,
Go down to the bottom to share.
Hey,
and then
Joey.
turn on the option.
take a
You might
peek
have
at
to
this.
tap your share.
goes down to the bottom to share?
Yeah, where it says share screen, and then turn on sharing for others.
My,
You might have to
Nice, huh?
stop
You
there.
got the volume and the mute and all here.
Okay.
Right there.
Yeah.
See, I'm at the, oh, I was at the top. Now I'm at the top left.
Nope, still shows disabled.
I'm under the, they're streaming it on Facebook.
Okay,
too.
so you should be able to,
But yeah, you can see a whole bunch of things.
There we go. Okay. It
And now
was-
I'm up top again.
I'm on. I want to hide that. There it is.
Yeah, it's nice sitting back. Like if we wanted to ever do this,
Wow.
like, you know,
oh, that's
you know,
a
our
really
office,
nice image.
California or whatever. And then your parents
That's
were
not
able to
the camera
look out
image
and see
direct.
what's
And
nice.
run quickly through Topaz Denoise and a quick
Yeah.
1 minute adjustment in Paint Shop Pro. But you can see the horns at the top of the helmet, and there's a faint streamer coming down, heading to the left side of it. That shows up also. But that's Thor's helmet. That's one of my favorite winter objects also.
Hey, Jack, what scope is that?
16-inch Ritchie accretion at f8. And I was using a brand new IDAS NBZ filter, which is a dual band filter that allows H alpha and O3 through. This was with a 12-day-old moon in the sky. And I was not that far from the moon when I was taking this picture. So, and that's right from our light polluted backyard here in Pearl River.
And the camera you used was just, was a single shot?
That was a prototype Malicam 24C Tech. It's a full frame 43.3 millimeter sensor. It's full 35 millimeter frame, 24 by 36 millimeter sensor, 24 megapixel.
Nice, okay.
It's not for everybody. I have a 3-inch focuser on that scope, and with a smaller focuser, you would get severe vignetting with the light cone trying to pass through the draw tube. But with that 3-inch focuser at f8, it works. And I can stop sharing. Okay.
Okay.
So y'all had mentioned, how did you get started in astronomy? Well, my day started when they launched Sputnik. I begged my mom to give me a telescope at 20/40 60 power. Didn't know anything about orbitals, orbits, anything. And for days and, well, nights, I watched looking for Sputnik, that little 24-inch ball that was going beep, 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 beep. Never did find it. Years later, I decided that when I would retire, I wanted a hobby that wasn't physically demanding. So I looked around and I saw that the Australian Astronomy Society was around. So I went and joined that. Then I went to some star parties. The first one was at Percy Quinn, and that's where I met Jack Hurricamp and his wife, and they showed us the ins and outs of the telescopes. And the rest is history.
No, thank you for that. When did they launch
With
that?
model rockets in high
telescope?
school and an interest in space. Then I went to engineering school, and the boy down the block had a 2.4-inch Sears refractor, and I borrowed it from John one night, pulled out the Farmer's Almanac, said, "What's up in the sky?" It showed Saturn was up, so I said, "Well, it's got to be bright. Let me look." First thing I saw was a star. Second thing was Saturn had rings, and that was it. I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, I think once you look through a scope and you see Saturn, it is that kind of hooks you on repeating that. It's pretty amazing.
My dad was an optician. He had a connection with Tasco. I said, "I need to buy a telescope." I bought a 4.5-inch reflector f8 with a spherical mirror, and just kept going from there.
I got a little bit of a different kind of story. I was 10 years old, and we had built a 3-story treehouse where the Landmark Hotel is in Metairie. You guys can imagine right there at the end of the causeway. Somebody has their mic open. Right at the end of the causeway and where I-10 is, that was all vacant open fields. And we had a big treehouse there, and we camped out there one night, and there were so many meteors that we just couldn't believe it. There was like one meteor, I meant like more than one a minute, and they were bright. And this was like 1968 or 67, and I was just hooked on astronomy from that point. And my father, being the cheapskate that he was, bought me a Gilbert. It could have been a 3-inch telescope. I actually still have it. I got to bring it to one of these observing sessions. A 3-inch Gilbert telescope is like F-16 or whatever. But we used that thing to look at the sun and the moon. That's all it was good for. And that sparked the interest. And then, you know, Lord behold, here comes 1980, after really not having, you know, that much activity in astronomy. I bought a C8 jack, and first thing I looked at, you know, besides the planets, was M1, and boy was I disappointed. But everything else, and I just kept at it, and I regretted it ever since.
And a few years later, you dragged that scope all the way to Costa Rica.
And, you know, I still have the Loxa airline stickers on the box and all that. And one of my favorite stories is we were coming back from Costa Rica, and Jack Herkamp was trying to smuggle in some kind of special coffee. I'm not certain what, but the dogs caught him in line as we were trying to get back into the country.
That was when they were having a coffee embargo in the US. Coffee was rare, so I bought a bunch of Costa Rican coffee and packed my suitcases with it.
Did they confiscate it?
No, they did not. Coffee and vanilla extract. Forget what else we bought in Costa Rica and brought back.
I do remember the customs agent was quite attractive. She was, I think she was the one with the dog.
And I'm sure Steve like winked at her, and then everything was okay.
Exactly. It was me that actually successfully negotiated Jack Herkamp's release.
That's really nice. Okay, cool. Anybody else?
I think some of y'all know my background in that I spent over 35 years working out at Michoud on NASA programs, but I got an early start back when they were throwing up Alan Shepard and John Glenn into space, like some of y'all have already said. I got interested in it back then, and my grandfather was into astronomy, but by the time I came along, he was in his 80s and had gotten rid of most of his optics. I stumbled over some of his cast iron stuff in the garage though, and was poking at it, and he told me a little bit about it. So I guess I got some of that interest from him, but you know, I laid that aside for a number of years, and when I was about to thinking about retirement, like one of the other gentlemen said, I got back into it again and have enjoyed it ever since. And like others said, well, I love staring at Orion at this time of the year. But I'm also, as galaxies start coming around, to me, that's real thought provoking. Like to stare at them. But one other thing I thought was kind of funny. I've recently watched some Lost in Space replays on cable, right? And I laugh when I look at them now, but I'm like, wow, when I was a kid, we really thought that stuff was cool. It really looks corny by today's standards, but that's what got us going, right? Pretty cool stuff.
Well, Jeff, they have a new version out now you can watch.
Yep, I've seen that one too. I think it's on Netflix. Yep. Like it even better. Dr. Smith is still evil.
Well, there was one where it was like on Saturday cartoons. There was a space space show, and it was like the lunar lander, but the lunar lander was flying around, and there was some kind of alien sidekick. What was that? Has anyone else seen that? But it's an astronaut with like an alien sidekick, and their spaceship looked like the lunar module, sort of.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but in fact, I think I saw one of them the other day, but I don't remember the name of the series. It was a series. Yep.
Yeah,
That
it was
was the
on.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 where they watched movies. They sat in the theater and watched the movies, and you watched bad movies, and they would cut in and out of the show. I don't know if that's the same thing you're talking about, Mike.
No, I was talking. This was on Saturday morning with the cartoons.
Oh, cartoons. Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't a cartoon, but it was on in that time slot with the cartoons.
Don't know. Don't remember.
Yeah.
It wasn't with Moon Base Alpha, something like that years ago. It wasn't what you're talking about, huh?
No, actually,
a British show?
Actually, I have those. That was Space 1999.
That's what it is, right?
I found some DVDs, but no, that's not it. This is a comedy. You have to think comedy, not serious. It's a guy his sidekick. He might have been the precursor. He might have been related to Alf. But he didn't talk English. He made some beeping noises, kind of like a furry alien guy with beeping noises, sort of like a dog. Like it's an alien dog, alien Alf dog, and he flows around in like a moon space. But yeah, Space 1999, that was a more serious one. Like the moon got knocked out of orbit, and they were on a base on the moon, and they went flying through deep space into different adventures.
So Mike, your homework assignment is to find a short clip of that, and we can play it at the next meeting.
Hey, it's got to be out there. I don't know what it's called though.
If you're into any streaming TV apps, there's a free one out there called Pluto, and another one called IMBD. They both have a lot of those old TV series on them. That's where I've been watching Lost in Space at. So you might want to check that out.
Maybe. Well, what was Lost in Space? Didn't have like an alien dog, did it?
No.
Okay, so it wasn't that.
Cool. Well, the next thing we have for the meeting here is we were going to show this. There's a YouTube video where, in fact, they do it every week. I guess when the weather is good, at this Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, Arizona. So the next one is next Tuesday at 9 p.m. And it's kind of interactive. So while they're actually manipulating these scopes, you can put in a request, and they have a Malin cam that's attached to it. So you see they're using the Malacam software, so you start to see like the image as the light accumulates.
Yeah, Sarah Urja runs their outreach, and she's using a Malacam 10C Tech and their 14-inch plane wave out there at their Godot facility, Giovanni Open Deck Observatory. I was hoping.
Yeah, so you may actually be, this may actually be the person or the site that they're actually doing the live streaming from. But if you log in there 9 p.m. on Tuesday, you can actually participate, and so you can suggest objects and chat to them.
And they do have a bunch of their pre-recorded videos available on their website. You can look at past recordings as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump ahead of the, they have at the beginning of the video like a little flyer for them, but I'm going to jump ahead of that to save a little time. And but yeah, so we can see that. And yeah, in fact, if during the video, because I mean, of course the person's talking, but if you would like, we can pause the video if someone wants to have some comments on it. It is it's like 30 minutes, but I can jump ahead of things if people want me to jump ahead. Okay, so we'll try this and see how it goes.
Hello and welcome to. For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want, and you never need to pick up a camera. To interactive stargazing tonight. My name is Ariel Daniel, and I will be your host. Today we are using our 14-inch planewave telescope as well as our Malacam software. And starting off, we are looking at the moon. And now through the presentation, feel free to put in any requests into the chat, and we'll do our best to try to grab those objects. I believe right now in Flagstaff, the moon is pretty bright tonight, as well as we've got some high clouds going on, but they should be passing through, and we should be able to grab some stuff as the night progresses. So. The moon is about 240,000 miles away. We can see these darker portions on the moon are called maria, and that is evidence of ancient volcanic eruption. We can also see all of these craters on the surface of the moon. Because of the moon's lack of atmosphere, these space rocks that come in and fly towards Earth, they burn up in our atmosphere, but the space rocks that come in and fly towards the moon, they don't really, they have nothing to burn up in, so we end up getting all these sort of like scars on its surface. Way back when the solar system was first forming, the moon was actually covered in these effusive volcanic eruptions, so really slow, mellow magma flows. And the moon's getting bombarded with all of these random space rocks. This calm magma filled in all of these craters, and that's why we see all of these darker sort of smudges on the moon. And I believe we can sort of zoom in and see more detail on that moon as well, Vic. I believe we can. We can see detail in the maria as well as in the craters. We can just kind of zoom around and see some of that. Nice. With a bright object and a close big object like the moon, sometimes we'll get this effect where it'll kind of look like the moon's wobbling or underwater. That's just atmospheric turbulence, just wind in our upper atmosphere, or wind passing over it, or some clouds passing over it. Now, let us see. I believe we have some requests already. Are we able to see Cassiopeia, a supernova remnant? Is that in the sky at all? The Crab Nebula is a supernova remnant, so the death of an incredibly, oh yeah, he's just barely in there. We could maybe up the exposure a little and then zoom in. We might be able to get a little more detail. So M1 is the first of the Messier objects. It is a supernova remnant, meaning it's the death of a very massive star, the death of a giant star. Giant stars are like stellar deaths, or kind of like these stars in general are like these little element factories, and the heavier the star, the more massive the death. So lighter or average stars, they'll create lighter or average elements, the stuff that we see on the periodic table. And then heavier stars will create heavier metals. So like if you're wearing a gold ring, that gold is formed from within a supernova, like the Crab Nebula.
Let's see. So M81 and M82 are a little too low, so we can't grab those guys. Let us see. M84 is a little too low as well. That'd be fun. And we'll definitely be able to grab a neat little star. So you can see on the screen here that that map was kind of moving. I'm at my house, but we've got some people over at the Lowell Observatory right now operating the telescope. Ooh, a nice bright star. Neat. You can see that we're taking about a 7-second long exposure. You can see that exposure time at the bottom of the screen. Looks like it might be a binary star as well. So yeah, that's nice. I like that effect. You know, when we look at really bright stars, we see this sort of like a cross coming out of that star. And that is actually the light coming off of the secondary mirror in the telescope. The telescope that we're using is a reflector. So we have a large primary mirror and a smaller secondary mirror that's like kind of held at the top of the telescope. And that those streams coming out of the stars are from the secondary mirror being held inside of the telescope. Okay. Let's see. NGC 2354, Thor's helmet. So we can definitely try it out. It may be a little faint. I'm not sure. 23. What is it? Sorry. 2359. Okay. A nebula. So we might be able to see. Little too faint to grab him. Sorry about that. We'll blame it on the clouds. Request from Jose. Hi, Jose. NGC 2419. Are we able to grab that at all, or is it still a little too dim? 2419. So, Jose and I were hanging out one day, and I stumbled upon this object. Now, are we taking, oof, hello, we crossed in front of the moon. That's why the, the screen went completely white. But we ran into this object and I saw it. Okay, this is cool. And it's called the Intergalactic Wanderer. Like, that is one of the most epic names for an object I've ever heard. So this tiny little dude, oh no, is one of the most distant globular star clusters in the Milky Way. So a globular star cluster is a giant, kind of like a family of stars with hundreds of thousands of stars. This guy specifically is about 300,000 light years away. So like the most distant glob we know of in our galaxy. The reason why it's like super extra faint, we've got this weird rainbow going on, is because it's like right next to the moon right now. But, you know, this glob is like on the complete opposite side of the galaxy from all the other globs in our galaxy. It is 2 times farther away than the Large Magellanic Cloud. It's wild that, you know, just barely we can see them a little bit today. Let's go around here. NGC, what is it, 2467. Was that visible? Or did we see that already? 2467. An open cluster of an object we want to look at, and the camera will look on over. So I believe this view here is the open star cluster. So what an open star cluster is a globular star cluster will have like hundreds of thousands of stars. Oh, fun. Okay, so we can see that these are younger stars. So we see this sort of nebulosity hanging out in the upper portion of the view. Wow, and that's like a part of the open cluster. I like that a lot. That's really pretty. So an open cluster is a younger group of stars. It'll only be like a couple thousand stars versus globs will have hundreds of thousands of stars. We also know that, open star clusters, they're younger stars, and they're called open clusters because they're slowly drifting apart from each other because of a weak gravitational pull. On the contrary, with globular clusters like the intergalactic wanderer we saw maybe just barely a second ago, those guys are very strongly gravitationally bound together. So scientists named them the very sciencey science term globbed together. We've got a lot of requests. Okay, let's see. The NGC 4565. Were we able to grab that? NGC 4565. I believe if it's possible to get a positive and a negative view. We passed in front of the moon again. Love that for us. Okay, cool. So M110 is actually a part of the Andromeda Galaxy. I believe it's one of the satellite galaxies to Andromeda. Nice. Okay. So is that the core of Andromeda or the core of M110? I believe that's the core of the Andromeda Galaxy.
Nope.
Okay, so this is the core of M110. Awesome. Okay. This guy is within the Andromeda Galaxy. I believe we can up the exposure, maybe get a little more definition. But that sort of a brighter smudge in the center there is where, that supermassive black hole is. That's kind of keeping together the whole galaxy. We can see with more exposure, more of that sort of looks like haze, but that haze is actually individual stars. We just don't quite have like the resolution to see those individual stars. So about 2.5 million light years away, this little galaxy is hanging out. Okay. Okay. The asteroid. So looking at asteroids like Vesta, it would be, sorry. Yes, perfect.
Your frame rate is the rate at which your camera captures frames. The faster the frame rate, the more milliseconds.
Perfect. Yes. Wow. Yeah, the Orion Nebula is a star-forming region about 1,300 light years away. So what we're seeing here is this sort of a darker cloud in the front. That's a dark nebula, and inside of that gas, that is sort of helping all of these, thousands of sun-like stars to form. We can see this primarily ionized hydrogen gas, that red gas in the back. I think also if we could down the exposure a little bit, we would be able to see the trapezium. Or maybe I go into video mode and we up the exposure time. So we can see these 4 little dots in the center there. Nice. And that's called the trapezium. So we're able to see like these little baby stars in the center of that nebula. Yeah, I love the Orion Nebula. I think, this really bright gas is super duper pretty. All right. M51, we can't quite grab right now. Zach, the Christmas tree cluster, we should be able to grab. It's a little close. The Christmas tree cluster is supposed to look like a Christmas tree. To me, it looks like a bunch of stars. But this right here is another open star cluster. So, some of them look a little denser than others. Some of them look way more spread out than others. It could also be that this open cluster is a lot closer to us. So we're not even getting like the entire cluster in the field of view because we just have too good of a telescope. But yeah, I love open clusters. They can, come in all different. Okay. Let's see if we're able to grab him. So we're Taking an exposure. Nice. Cool, cool, cool. Oh, so with this exposure, we can actually see globular star clusters are a lot older than open star clusters. And you can tell the age of a star by its color. And with this globular star cluster, you can see these stars look pretty red, which means that they are older, cooler stars. With an open star cluster, like the Christmas tree cluster we just saw, those stars are more white or blue because they're younger, hotter stars. So that's nice. I like that guy. Let us see. We've got a lot of requests. I'm trying to hit all of them. 2298, that was cool. Okay. Zach Davis asks, how old is Lowell? We were founded back in 1894. So we are, what does that make us? 127 now? Face Nebula or the Lion Nebula.
For my wallet, I just wanted 3 things. It had to be simple, really easy to access your cards, and last forever.
I think we try really hard to name things after what they look like, but like Christmas Tree Nebula, it's just kind of like look like a bunch of stars, but that's okay. The Eskimo Nebula is a planetary nebula about 6,500 light years away. We passed in front of the moon again. That's why we have this bright the dying core of a sun-like star in the center there. So a planetary nebula is the death of a low mass or average mass star. So in a couple billion years, that is what our sun is going to look like. We have the dying core in the center there, and that the dying core of that star is expelling out all of the gases and the elements that that star has created throughout its lifetime. So like we saw Messier 1 a little while ago, the Crab Nebula a little while ago. That was the death of a more massive star, heavier than average star. So we got heavier elements. With the death of a star like this, like the Eskimo Nebula here, we get lighter elements like oxygen and helium and nitrogen and things like that. But he kind of looks like a little lion's mane, doesn't it? I like it. Okay, let's jump to. We saw M42 a second ago. NGC 2903. It might be a little dim and cloudy, but we could still try to get it. Also, these catalogs that I'm talking about, I keep saying like M42, that is the Messier catalog. This NGC catalog is the new general catalog. So just like kind of like a newer catalog than the Messier catalog, like more distant objects or dimmer objects. That is neat. Ooh, so we're getting a little galaxy action going on there. So we can see that really bright core in the center there. We can also just barely see, it looks like a barred spiral galaxy, meaning we have the core of the galaxy, that lighter portion in the center, and then we have what looks like this sort of like a toothpick or a bar going through it. And then like coming off to the right and like down to the top right to the middle right, and then bottom to the middle left, we can see these spiral arms. And these spiral arms are where star formation is occurring. And that's why we're able to, what a spiral galaxy is those spiral arms are usually giant star forming regions. So filled with regions like the Orion Nebula. Cool. I like that.
Wonder. This is our home.
Howdy, neighbors.
Jose requests Iota Cancri. So I think we're going to try to. So it's a bicolor binary because one of the stars looks a little more red and the other star looks a little more blue. So these binary stars are kind of like, gravitationally bound to each other. So they're going to orbit around each other. So that more massive star, might not move as much as the smaller star orbits around it, or they could be, completely equal masses and they could just orbit that very center, that center of mass. There's a bunch of different outcomes with binary star systems, but it's cool as well because for the most part, binary stars, when you look at like all of the stars in our night sky, they all pretty much look like single stars, but over 60% of the stars in our sky are multiple star systems, like these binary stars, and we can't really see that they're binaries until we view through a telescope. Let's see. And so it looks more like an elliptical galaxy. Maybe as the exposure comes in more, we might be able to see some spiral arms. There might be spiral arms in there. But, you know, there are spiral galaxies, there are elliptical galaxies, there are, there are spiral galaxies, elliptical galaxies, or irregular galaxies. Those spiral galaxies, like the one that we saw earlier, will have those star-forming regions in them. Elliptical galaxies, kind of looks like this guy's elliptical, mean that there's less star-forming areas, so less of a, you know, those gases used to form those stars or those gases that form those stars have been used up, those stars have been formed, and it's less so a spiral structure and more so just like a giant glob of stars or giant family of stars. Let us see.
The Bachelor is back. Stream it live on ABC with YouTube TV.
I switched from State Farm because of this site. They had me paying $163 a month.
The NGC 457, the owl cluster. I love the owl cluster. That's a little body made of stars and like little wings kind of going out made of stars. Yeah, nice. So those two bright stars kind of to the upper right are like the eyes of the owl, and then just beneath it, kind of going down into the left, that's like the body of the owl. The wings are sort of extending up, and the two brighter stars sort of in the middle of the view look like the little toesies of the owl. It might have just been because I've looked at this object so many times that I've tricked my brain into thinking that that's what it looks like. Let me know. Let's see. M1, which one is this one? M108. I believe this guy is in Ursa Major, the request from Jeff H. Were you able to grab him? So the reason why we see these streaks going through the view is because we're taking an exposure as the telescope is moving. So we're not like catching UFOs or anything, or we're not catching shooting stars. We're just taking a picture and moving the camera at the same time. Nice, yeah. So M108, it looks like we can see some little star-forming regions or some sort of shaded regions. So a younger galaxy with star forming happening. Let's see. Messier 97 is behind the building right now. I would look at it though. Let's try Messier 76, little dumbbell. Hi, Jose. The little dumbbell there. So we can see these different colors are actually different elements that star has created throughout its lifetime and is sort of emitting throughout its lifetime. So I think we're going to do maybe one or two more objects before we dip today. So let's try the beehive cluster. Danielle asked, why is the beehive cluster called so? Because apparently it looks like a beehive, but they all kind of look like that to me, except for the owl cluster. That one definitely looks like an owl or an angry lobster. Last object tonight, we're going to try to jump on over to NGC 891 tonight. Are we able to? Cool. Okay, so we're going to up the exposure a little more. Is this the Needle Galaxy? So this is neat because, you know, we're looking at galaxies are kind of like plates. So, you know, we can look edge on, we can look face on. They can be, space is a 3D thing and they can be thrown around wherever. Now, what we're seeing here is a galaxy, instead of looking at us face on, like if it was a little egg, we don't see the yolk and then the white. We're just seeing like the white part here, and then the yolk is just barely coming out in the center there. Like that bright portion in the center is the galaxy center. So we're looking at this galaxy edge on. So we can see this darker streak, like kind of like going down. That is those star forming regions. And then nice, cool. So flipping into the negative view, we can see that that darker streak is more like lighter now. So the star forming regions are lighter, and then that core of that galaxy, that really bright area, is a little darker now. So we can see exactly where that core is, and see it spread out like that. But yeah, if we want to flip back over to positive view, with that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to.
Okay, so that's it. Sorry for the commercials.
They weren't too bad.
I tried to move through very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Lowell's been having that camera now for a couple of months. They bought a DS10C Tech to put in that 14-inch plane wave when they set up the Godot facility, April of 19. No, September of 19. But I just sent them the new 26C Tech in exchange for the 10C. They're testing it, and if they're satisfied, they'll send me the 10C back, and they'll keep the 26. But that's the first time I've got a chance to see it in operation on their scope. A little
Was
bit of
that live, basically, of what a recording of their live where they were actually hitting all of those targets that quickly in live action?
They're using, I don't know if it's an LS350 or an LS500 mount on their plane wave, and it can go horizon to horizon in like 5 seconds. Unbelievable. Single arm fork. It's like a Celestron 6SE on steroids. Incredibly accurate, incredibly fast, and precise go-tos.
Yeah, like you saw, like once they changed the object, it was almost immediately at the next object.
I was really looking forward to getting there this summer to see the facility. Sarah Bircher, who runs the outreach program for Lowell, gave me a tour of it right before the Grand Canyon Star Party in 2019, and they didn't even have the plaza paved around the telescopes. They just were starting to put the piers in, and the building itself didn't have the skin on it. That's a massive roll-off building. The entire 6 telescopes are housed in the building, and the entire building rolls off to expose the 6 telescopes to the night sky. They have a 32-inch star structure, 17-inch plane wave, 14-inch plane wave. They have an 8-inch moonraker refractor and 2 other scopes there. And I was going to see them this summer, but then they've canceled the Star Party this summer because of the COVID. They're going to a virtual Star Party for the 2nd year in a row. So trip out to the West has been canceled.
Yeah, I want to go there sometime. It looks like just a fun place to go. You could, go there in the day and the night.
They give you nice tours. You get a chance to go through the rotunda, the library facility. They give talks there. They give talks on the Pluto telescope where Tombaugh discovered Pluto. There's a whole bunch of interactive talks they give during the daytime. And now they have this at nighttime. You can go look through the original Clark refractor that's up there, and now you can look through these telescopes as well.
Actually, earlier I didn't share my story about getting into astronomy, but kind of similar. I went to Arizona and I visited this observatory earlier in the year from when I actually bought my first nice telescope, and we did stargazing in Arizona. So it's it wasn't a trip to Chile, but it was interesting and it was fun, and we actually won a free telescope from them. It was not a very good telescope, but it was one of the things that pulled us in and got us interested. Real fun place to visit.
Oh, thanks, Angela. Okay, so that is the last thing for today. Does anyone have any comments before we close the meeting?
I would think it was great what you did last month, and appreciate what you put together this month, Phil. It's a good deal. And it's nice being able to share the charts whenever folks take the time to put them together. You know, we putting them on Facebook and on our website, I think is great for the folks that can't attend. So I assume you'll send them out again this month.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, and if people have have some time to put together a presentation between now and the next meeting, that would help us out a lot. Definitely we would would like to have someone present rather than sharing a video on YouTube. But yeah, so think about that. If you do have something you'd like to share, talk to Mike, and we can get you set up for the next meeting.
Question. Anybody gonna do any observing in the next month or two?
I hope
Like
to.
going to the site, or going out to the deep dark sky side or anything like that?
Oh, we got March 6th coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the weather forecast is decent.
Whenever it's
A
clear,
little too far out to draw conclusions, but it's not bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope to get up to the dark sky site one of the next 2 weekends. I have to get with Walter because I don't have my new key yet. So I have to go when someone else goes or meet Walter up there.
So it sounds like people might be going up to the dark side on the 6th of March, huh? That's
it's a possibility, but there's people who don't go up there much too, so it's okay to have something here and something there at the same time.
Have they had any plans to get rid of that tree that's blocking the North Star, Laris?
There's been discussion, no action.
I know we have to be careful not to let it land on either the observatory or on the bunkhouse.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what we can do to get rid of that.
But there is like one tree that really blocks the North Star.
That's the one I want to get rid of.
Yeah, Matt, you can catch the North Star if you're far enough to the east, but then if you're far enough to the east, you're allowing the eastern trees to block probably the darkest portion of the sky for us. So other than zenith.
A future topic is we could give a presentation on setting up your mount without access to the North Star.
My son-in-law is a pretty good tree cutter. He's dropped quite a few, but unfortunately he's going through rotator cuff recovery right now from surgery he had. So maybe when he gets a little bit stronger, he can.
He's not.
We can go out there and help. No, he didn't injure it from dropping a tree. So
yeah. He's not Drew Brees, is he?
No.
Because he's having surgery for a rotator cuff.
Future of that site, right? Because there is a lot of forestry management that needs to be done out there, and but how much effort do we put into something that could be pulled from us?
Yeah.
In a week.
Well, we've talked about that, but to have it done, they wanted to put in a new road and a new gate. But if we could have done that, we could have them come in and clear out a whole bunch of them. They'll haul them out to make paper out of them, or do whatever they do with it. Probably paper, I guess.
Yeah, the most probable plan was for some people to go up there and just literally cut them down and let them fall where they fall. That was, I guess, the best short-term solution. I think Walter had experience downing trees. Maybe he helped the last time they did it. But yeah, we haven't put together a solid plan on to address that yet.
We need a benevolent tornado.
Yeah, one
It
that
knocks
doesn't
down the
takes out
trees, but
trees.
doesn't
not-
take out the
everything else.
observatory or bunkhouse.
not the bunkhouse or
Well,
the.
Well, you
One
know,
of the
we could
reasons
snap
I
them in
brought
half
this
and
up-
we'd be in great shape.
Oh, well.
You know, I have a small track hoe, but I have no way to get it there. But I can tell you, like that entrance onto that property and stuff and all, 4 or 5 hours work, I can do what, you know, a team of us would do over weeks. I'd be able to do that, but I need to be able to get the unit there.
What would it
And,
take
you
to
know,
do that?
A trailer talking about?
Something that will, a trailer that can carry, it's gotta have 8 tires. 4 tires ain't gonna cut it. It's gotta have 8 E-class tires on it.
Hmm.
But my Traco, I could go over there, I can tell you, I could do some serious cleaning. You know, grubbing is what we call it, grubbing it out. And and as far as pine trees, I enjoy pushing those over, and I can make it fall wherever you want it to, period.
Well, I'd be willing to settle only for that one tree that blocks the north. To me, it
But
seems like the other trees are at least protecting us from sky glow, from not sky glow, but light domes. And
I have an old trailer. I don't know if it can make it there or not, but I mean.
How much does it weigh? How much does it weigh, Steve? Do you know?
16,000.
15, 15000?
16000.
16000. Okay. My son-in-law has got a big flatbed. I know he hauls back. He's hauled some backhoes around. He's hauled little Bobcat. I'm not sure what the weight capacity is.
Yeah, this is not a big machine. I mean, you know, if we could offload it, like, you know, at the entrance and just drive it in, and I could just, like, you know, clear stuff up as I go into the you know, you've seen those little ones you rent from you know, a rental place or whatever, and then you've seen the ones that, you know, can do tremendous work. This thing has about a third of a yard bucket on it. And, you know, it's got a thumb, and I can pull stuff out. And what we do for pine trees is, let's say someone wanted to cut a tree down, I just start pushing on the other side, and it makes, you know, I can make sure the tree falls in the right direction. So I mean, yeah, it would be very useful. If we could get that thing there, I could definitely give you a couple of days' work. I'd be happy to do that.
Hey, Steve, what if we can have something delivered there from a rental company?
I could do that too.
Yeah,
I mean,
that might be enough.
Maybe we can get a rental company to donate us some time. But yes, that's another possibility.
Yeah, I'll poke at that and see what the weight capacity is on my son-in-law's trailers. That's another avenue we can look at.
You'll realize this is a small one. If you want to write the name of the name of the machine, it's an E70B. It's kind of like it's a big mini track hoe.
E70B is in Bravo. Okay.
Yeah, Echo 70 Bravo.
Got it. Thank you.
So, yep, if we could get it there, I could do some damage, as I say, but just joking.
Well, thanks, Steve. Okay, well, if no one has anything else, then we'll end the meeting.
All right, enjoyed seeing all you guys. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Good night.
All right, see you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, see you, Steve.